My name is Julie Grease. Thank you guys for coming out. Many of you, the crowd looks very familiar to me. So that's great that you know that a lot of this stuff feels familiar. For those who are not currently a DMHA prevention provider, we're thrilled that you're here and exploring this opportunity. I cannot tell you anything that is not told to everyone. So you certainly may ask questions here. I'm going to go straight down the RFF. There will be nothing that isn't told to everyone. So I will not be at liberty to answer all of your questions today, but we certainly will collect them. We also are we are recording this, so as long as it works out, you guys can link to it. If you want to listen to it again, we'll put that on our website, the DMHA's prevention website, which is linked in your RFF as well. You can link right to it. Yeah. All right. So this came out last Tuesday. It does represent some shift from what we had been doing before, but I think some things that feel very familiar to what we had been doing before. We at DMHA are committed to reaching our goals as well. And when we sent out 4 years ago, yes, it was 4 years ago, we went to more of a coalition model from Afternoons Rock. We learned so much, so many wonderful things, but also things that, that didn't work out as we intended. And I'm sure that we will have that same learning here. One of the things that we found as far as DMHA from the state, now remember you guys are moving outcomes in your communities, and I am trying to move outcomes into the state. And SAMHSA and CSAP are trying to move outcomes for the nation. So all of us have a shared agenda, but a slightly different agenda. And so one of the things that happened when we sent funds out before was we got them kind of diffuse. You guys were quite diffuse in your efforts and quite diffuse on what we were measuring, and it became, we did not see, we felt like we were not getting as much traction as we would like. And so this is a shift in fewer sites, higher intensity, more monies, we hope, into those sites, and hopefully see those changes as well. And we were seeing changes. I don't want to say that we were not seeing changes. We certainly were seeing changes. Communities, and we're going to go to the next slide, were selected in two ways. They were selected with two measures. We used the SEOW scores, but then we had great concern at DMHA because SEOW scores, by the nature of what they are, and if you haven't looked at the SEOW report, I encourage you to do that. It comes out annually. But by the nature of what those scores are, they disproportionately show larger counties because they have a lot of data that's on arrest data, and they also have a lot of data on treatment. So in larger counties, larger population, we have more resources for arrest data to report it and also for treatment as well. So we felt like that was not the only measure that we could use, although we certainly stand by those numbers. It just felt like we were not going to get to the smaller counties. They were not falling out. So we also looked at maybe more of a more kitchen sink measure, and not, it was the best measure that we had. That we felt like gave a fair, level the playing field based on population, and that was the Robert Wood Johnson's county risk factor scores. It is, as we all know as preventionists, a pretty big jump to say that health risk factors equal drug use factors, okay? But that was what we had to use, and so that's where they came from, those two scores. We took the top, depends on which one, the worst 30%. So the top with SEOW, the ones that we felt like had highest risk, and then the risk, Robert Wood Johnson were also the highest risk, but they are on the bottom. And we took 30%. We did round up. So 30% of Indiana counties is 27.6. So there were 28 counties, all right, that we picked who could possibly apply. So we had larger population counties. We said that those were above 75,000, okay? It was, people asked where. I've already been asked why 75,000. To some degree, it was, I won't say it was arbitrary, but when we started with 100 and 125,000, and we didn't have very many counties, the same thing came true. So we looked at those where we felt like they had larger towns and cities in them and said, okay, those tend to be 75,000 and then below. So we could have said a different number, but that is where we picked it. Those are our larger population. It's important only because they can ask for additional monies. They're being asked to do very similar things, but they can ask for additional monies. So those grants will go out at $250,000. And these are our smaller counties, and they had populations of 75,000 or lower. When you look at them on a map, and we have been looking at them on a map, they are quite diffuse across the state. Interestingly, they do pick up areas where right now, can you guys hear me? Okay. Where right now we don't have many efforts. And when you put what is currently going on funded by DMHA, even when you put what is funded by DMHA and TPC, which is the tobacco control monies, there are spaces in the state where not much is happening. And so it is certainly our hope that we build greater capacity across the state. DMHA would like to move towards a little different funding stream so that everyone can be served, or at least a larger population. But at this point, we don't have a great mechanism because we don't have a lot of capacity in some of these areas. Okay. So those are smaller counties. Next slide. So we just talked about this. Up to $250,000 can be requested. And up to $200,000 for a lower population county, with a little smaller, so that's under the $75,000 per year. DMHA would like to award somewhere between 10 to 14, depending on how that breaks out. We have a dollar sum of how much there is that we would like to disseminate, and if we have a higher population, higher number of smaller counties, lower population, we could award a few more, or if we have a higher population on larger counties, we would award a few more. CSAP also asks us what our funding distribution is, and they do like to see, CSAP does, and this makes sense, as much of the population covered as we can. So we will certainly be awarding larger counties as well as the small ones. You may need to, so this is a question that has come up, and you may need to subdivide your county. Right now we have some of you who are doing little pieces in your county as a piece of what you're doing right now. So you have identified a certain geographic area. We are asking you to address the county as a whole. You may find that there are areas based on risk score or certain populations that you feel like are not getting served that you may need to target more intensely. That is an argument that you will make as you write your RFF. Health disparities are not going away. Just going to say that, but they're there. So one of the things that people often say is, DMHA, you want us to do health disparities, and we don't have great direction on that as well. So in this, and I think that's fair, and I think that's still true. So in this RFF, we have given you a definition from CDC on health disparate populations, and it is not necessarily, it can break down on different things, but who is having is not receiving prevention services, who maybe has a greater need for prevention services and would then merit a greater intensity of effort. And those are sort of how we're defining health disparate populations. And you will see it break down based on your data. This matters mostly because you're going to have to submit 2 budgets for us to see this, all right? So right now, 60% of your dollars in this RFF need to be distributed towards direct programs, services. These can be programs, policies, or practices. If you look at the evidence-based work group list, you've got a lot of examples on those, all right? But they have to be spent on program service delivery. 40% of the dollars can go for other things because you have pieces in this RFF about maintaining coordination and cooperation with your coalition. This needs to happen through a coalition effort. One agency cannot do it, not only because it's too much for one agency to meet all these needs, not only because one agency will have expertise in one area, maybe they're really great at the little guys, the preschoolers, or the middle schoolers, or maybe somebody else is really great at public policy. We have not seen that consistently in the same agency. All right, you guys, the prevention providers that we look, they have an area of strength. It is not necessarily a comprehensive area of strength, and so it needs to happen with a few more people around the table. It has to happen within a coalition. You will need to submit to budgets, because we're going to submit the one that we have to have for the state, which is the traditional boilerplate, and then we're going to need to see that you've broken your budget out into both the programs and then other costs. Of those programs, 70% have to be off evidence-based prevention strategies, and Julie Grease would prefer higher. However, we know that there are areas, particularly in prescription drugs or illicit substances, where we just don't have a strong database on what works. You should spend the majority of your efforts and the majority of your dollars on universal prevention programs, which is going to hit everything. But there will be instances in your community where you have a special need and you will have to say, we're going to do something maybe on a policy, or one of our risk factors is high density, so we're going to look at an ordinance, or our school has a particular problem, we want to look at how they're doing things there. So you will make that argument. You're layering on top of layering on top of layering so that we drive down rates. Ultimately, you must, the state has these goals, all right? These are our strategic substance abuse, and there's a link in the RFF that you could go, and these are the state's goals. This is where we're going. Your goals must mirror those. So you must be looking at the goals that the state has. You must be able to make a link that this program is going to address these goals. These goals are on alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, prescription drugs, and injection drugs. Having said that, these dollars are for universal prevention. So all of those pieces do end up addressing those. Universal prevention is that layer that we give to most everybody. They all get a similar piece, all right? For sites who opt to use non-EBP programs, you still cannot use programs that have been shown to be ineffective. The only ones that you can dip into car crashes, some other things that have come up, goggles, some things that have been shown to not have outcomes related to it. You may use programs that we just don't know. We just don't know whether they're effective or not. All right. Let's see. I neglected to put Shelley Ross, who's our prevention fellow back there, on the EVP list that was sent out. And so I wanted to take a minute to recognize her. It is now on the one that is on our website and the official one, but I want to make sure because she's been so helpful. And the EVP group has been meeting for about a year. Yeah, it's been a year. And it was a committee composed of people who are direct service providers at the local level doing prevention in the trenches, and state agencies as well. And we adopted, and if you look at the EBP document, it is a pretty generous, in my opinion, adoption. We used NREP. You had to be at 2.5 or above. And then we used some other ones, and they had to be model programs or on AIM. They had to be rated as highly effective. Okay. So it's pretty generous. Do know this will not impact you, but it will change because NREP is also changing this year. So it will change, but you need to write it as if this was going to hold, okay? As we evolve through this process, you may say, I wanted to use blah, 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 and it fell off, or maybe it came on. There is also a waiver process. If you opt to waiver, use the waiver, I cannot assure you that we can make that waiver before you are funded, all right? So it may be something that has to hold, and in fact, I'm almost positive we can't, because some of our community providers are on that, and they will have a chance to look at that, and they will maybe writing as well, so there's a conflict of interest. So if it is something that you are opting to do that's not on that list, when you do your proposal, you may have to propose it and wait for final approval after the grants are out. Right. If you turn to page 6 to 8, these were the requirements. There's a key. Should one be for lower and one for smaller? Are they the same?
The one I got were both marked.
Yeah.
There's a 5 minutes.
Yeah. I don't think it will matter for this part. There's only 2 or 3 changes for the lower versus the smaller ones, and we'll say what those are. There's only 2 or 3 things that are different. Pretty much you're asked to do exactly the same thing. Okay. So again, because I cannot tell you anything that is not here, okay, I'm going to read it. That's what we're going to do. All right. Throughout this funding period, applicants should be prepared to meet the following requirements: evidence of participation in a coalition effort that addresses alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs misuse and abuse; evidence of substance abuse prevention coordination across multiple agencies, organizations, and efforts. I want to highlight this because it is really important. If we're looking at layering on top of layering, you will be looking at different skill sets, and so different agencies may need to be involved collaboratively. Evidence of a commitment by a school corporation to participate in the Indiana Youth Survey that is shown through a written agreement to participate. We would also like for you to advocate for additional questions that we need for the NOMs. That is not a requirement. That is something that we're asking you to do. A proposed method to address health disparities. Submit a logic model that includes data, base consequences of use, risk and protective factors, and other determinants. There are a lot of logic models out there. There's a lot of different ways to do a logic model. We are asking you to link it to data, okay? So you could just link it to inputs and outputs, but we are looking for outcomes to be measured in data, and the inputs to be measured also with data sets. Implement at least one environmental strategy. Participate in ongoing professional development and submit evidence of SAPS training. We are asking, SAPS training is a 4-day training that provides the basis for the strategic prevention framework. We are asking for full-time staff to be trained in SAPS. We would encourage everyone to go to SAPS. We think it's sort of like, yay, everyone should go. But we are asking for full-time staff who are using these funds. If staff is split up across different grants, so maybe you have 60% on this one and somebody else is 60%, and you have 1.5 persons on this particular one. We're asking for the person with the majority of funds from this to be trained. If it is an even split, we will allow you to choose. But again, we would encourage everyone to come. I think it will make your lives easier when we have a common language around it. Strategic Prevention Framework is CSAP's prevention framework, and it's essentially a public health planning model. When you look at it, it will not feel like a surprise. It sort of feels like, what assessment data do we have? What capacity do we have? How do we build that, implement, and evaluate? And it just circles, all with an eye towards sustainability and cultural competence. It will feel like a public health model for you, and that's what it sort of looks like. But it will give us a common language to speak together. Conduct all programs with maximum fidelity and adherence to the evidence-based model, which, as we all know, sounds easier than it is. Adhere to funding allocations for evidence-based programs. Adhere to evaluation requirements. This is a little bit tricky for those of you who are currently working with DMHA and our wonderful evaluators down at IPRC. It should feel similar to this, but we do not have all those tools done yet because we don't know what you guys will be doing. But you should expect it to feel very similar to what you are doing right now. Participate in ongoing refinement. Provide up-to-date timeline and work plan annually. Develop and implement a sustainability plan during the grant period. There will be a deliverable coming up in year 2 where you are starting to implement your sustainability plan. Notify me at this point, but whoever the bureau chief is, if you have lost staff or staff changes within 5 business days. If you turn to the next pages, those are the structure of the grant. We did put points on based on a request from the sites. Having said that, even if the points are less, we consider every part of this important. So If I were in your shoes, I'd probably say, well, make sure you get the high ones, but I'm saying we're going to look at every single point. The scoring tool comes directly off this. So where you see it says 3 points, the scoring tool has that box, and it has a point, and then it has how much did they get. All right, so the scoring tool looks just like that. It should not feel like a surprise. The differences between the two are we were looking for, particularly for larger counties, we wanted to develop shared capacity. So we asked for 2 or more agencies to at least have an MOU where you would be sharing program implementation, program funding as well. So you are looking to literally share the wealth, but we want to see people expand across what their expertise is, because we need to build capacity in the state to do all of this. None of them are not important. Kid programs are important, policy is important, practices are important, all the ages are important, but none of us can be expected to do all of those. For the larger counties, we asked to see examples of at least 2 collaborative MOUs. For the smaller counties, we took that out. We were not sure what kind of capacity would be in the smaller counties. We are still encouraging that, but we took that MOU requirement out for the smaller counties. So that's one difference. The amount that can be requested is different, and also obviously the counties that are targeted are different. There are more small counties than there are large counties. Large counties, we are looking to fund 5 to 10, small counties 4 to 6. So possibly the competition is steeper, maybe? I don't know. I don't know how that will come out. These are the proposal sections. You'll lose points if you don't send the section in, okay? So go through the sections and make sure you're submitting something in. Some of them are really easy. So attachment A just tells about your agency, tells who you are, gives me I think it has your DUNS number on it. The budget, and I don't think I have another one. I do want to clarify you'll be doing 2 budgets for 2 different years. So you'll do 2 budgets for fiscal year 17. You'll do 2 budgets for fiscal year 18. The budgets are in here with the forms that the state makes us do, which is okay, right? It's what is auditable as well. But we have no way to say they spent 60% of their funds on programs with these forms. You have to break it out for us in that way, and that's what we're looking for. So you'll need to do 2 for fiscal year 17 and 2 for fiscal year 18, both what is required here, and then so that we can look at 60% on program funds, and of those 60%, 70 are evidence-based practices. We talked about this, that we do expect it to be within that. Let me get that. See, I had more. All right. Questions? You may address them here. I will not be answering anything, okay? But you may address them here. And the advantage to that, I think, is that you can hear what each other is saying. It always triggers my thinking when I'm with the other NPNs, which are the state level. When I hear what they're saying, I think, that's got to be true for Indiana, too. And so that may feed your thinking. So they will all of your questions that are asked will be answered by March 11th. You can also continue to submit those to me through March 3rd. I am asking you to send them to the prevention mailbox. Some of you know me, you're sending them, because we work together, you're sending them to Julie Grease. That becomes problematic because there are a lot of emails that come into Julie Grease, and I'm the only one who can open it. This mailbox has multiple people who can get into it, multiple people who can pull those questions down. I will try to answer your questions if you send them to Julie Grease, but I will not guarantee it because there are a lot in that mailbox. So please send them to prevention so that they all stay in one mailbox and we will answer them. Those are due by March 3rd. All right, those questions, and we'll get those back out to you by March 11th. Here are the questions that have already come into me. Oh, you guys, there's something about an inch margin and 12-point font, all right? Because there are page limits on all of this, just like college, you got it here to the minute, all right? Because we have to have them read as well. And then we talked about the SAPs already. Oh. A question that has already come in, I don't think it was from a site, but from somebody else who was reviewing it was, will there be another RFF in 2 years? And it says something like you could reapply. There will be an application process. It will not be an RFF process. So there will be something in 2 years. We have every confidence that this is going to go well, and that things are going to, we're going to change the state. We're going to really keep people safe and healthy, which I think is all of our goals. However, things do change as we go along, things come up and we learn as well. So there will be a reapplication process as well. I don't anticipate it looking significantly different. In 4 years, it is DMHA's intention to continue to learn from this and try to move to a larger regional piece so that more people are served, all right, at this point. So we'll see what happens in 4 years. But this one, we are looking at 2 years for the first RFF response, and then a reapplication process that will not be as intensive as the RFF. Okay. SAPT block grants are harder funds to spend certainly than state dollars, and even harder than discretionary funds that we get from CSAP. Please be advised, you cannot lobby with these funds. You cannot lobby with SAPT block grant funds. You can advocate, and we will talk about what is the difference between lobbying and advocating, but you cannot lobby with these funds. That is a rule for the substance abuse prevention block and treatment block grants. That's in there, it's coming from Congress. This one is a smaller level one, but we keep getting asked, and I understand because SBIRT is that bridge. SBIRT is that bridge between treatment and prevention, and is a screening tool. But CSAP has come down on the side of no SBIRT. So we are honoring that, which is sort of, yeah, it's sort of a shame because it is a nice place to put that as well. But SBIRT is not allowed by CSAP. And, enforcement. You can do all the training that you want. You can do anything to facilitate that, but the actual enforcement cannot be paid for by block grant dollars. You'll have to use other funds if your police or other enforcement agencies are involved in this, which they certainly should be, and then doing some enforcement activities with that. So you'll have to braid funds to get that actual enforcement paid for if that is something in addition to their normal duties. These will be posted on the DMHA website. We'll put a link to this if you want to listen to the recording as well. So you could listen to it again if you wanted. Somebody asked me already, can we pair up? Can I do 2 counties at a time, much like we have as well? If both counties are on the list, you can. You have to make the argument that this is why it's stronger to do that. And you still have to do a needs assessment that includes both counties. You may ask for more, let's say you pick 2 small counties, Knox, Sullivan, or Fayette Rush is on. Okay, and they're close together. You could ask for additional funds besides the $200,000. You could not ask for more than the combined counties, right? You can't say, we want $500,000 because we're doing 2. So you could ask for 2 counties. That was not necessarily the intention because I feel like this is such a complex project because we're asking you to layer so many pieces that I think your hands will be full, but counties do know what is going on in their counties better than I do. And so that is an option for you to pair up 2 counties. You need to make the argument that there's a good reason for it. The questions to the answers are going to be at our website. There's a hyperlink, I think, I think it comes through in the PDF file as well. So you can just get on there. But if you go to DMHA's website and you look under addiction services, it'll say prevention under one of those tabs, and that's where it will be. All of these thus far have been posted under the grant announcements. May an agency apply for more than 1 county? It's a little bit confusing. I see why this question came in. Yes, you may apply for more than 1 county. You may not send 2 applications in for the same county. So let's say you're trying to guess what you think would be the best. You have to make a decision and make that argument. So you can't say, we could do it this way or we could do it this way. But you may apply for other counties. This was a question from PFS. It is in the PFS contract. Partnerships for Success was a discretionary grant. It's in the contract that you have to have an FTE. So the question was, because you guys are going to have to shift some of our currently funded ones are going to need to switch. However, since it's in the contract, we are bound by that. Here, somebody from Harrison County asked, apparently there's a typo that I meant less than 75,000. It says apparently the same, or it says more than. It's supposed to be less than. Okay, it is. Can we address meth? Meth is not one of these substances. You will be doing universal prevention. So I would make the argument, yes, you are addressing meth. You are doing universal prevention. But if you say meth is a huge problem in our county, and it certainly may be, we're still asking you to hone in on these because we want to move the state forward as well. You want to move your community forward, we want to move the state forward. I feel confident in your county there is a problem with alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, prescription drugs, or injection. At least one of those. I feel confident that that's there, all right? So, and again, if you want to make the argument we need to address meth, you certainly may use any universal prevention program, and I think you can easily make the argument that we're addressing risk and protective factors which would also impact on meth. And if you have that problem in your community, I'm not denying that. We're just trying to focus in because we can't do everything all the time. All right, I'm going to pass these slips of paper out. We're going to give each other like maybe 5 minutes. We'll collect them. I will read them out loud, and if it's a question, but I will not answer them, okay? But we will put them all there. But that way you can hear what each other says. Yeah? Okay, I'll go this side. You do that side.
Can I ask a non-great question about training in the SACs? Would you be offering that more than you are now?
We will be offering it twice a year.
Twice a year?
Just twice a year.
Okay, so they need, okay.
Yeah, so it's interesting you said that we run out PFS because there's something in PFS that says we're going to start in 6 months.
Right.
And if they don't have to be hired right now, they will not be able to do that. And we'll have to set something out and make that work. Having said that, there are other states that are offering it, and for some folks, you might actually be a full official offering in Illinois state. We'll take it from another state. Julie, is there a statute on how, like, a lot of us have already got the SACS training? Are we good to go, or do we have to re-up on that? No, you are good to go. If you have SACS, you are good to go. Having said that, it's like all of our contracts, there will be a continuing education component. So once you get there, we are looking at the state, one of the models that we're looking at other states who require the prevention specialists, and how we might also increase the capacity of our prevention providers in some way. All of those start there at the SACS training. So that's something that's coming, but not here. Not here yet. So I would encourage you to go, but there will be continuing education as well. There is a SACS training tomorrow for those of you who think, oh, I think I want to try. And there's one October 4th. I'm making up the October. It's in October. Okay. But I think early October as well. Kathleen.
I will say that the SACS has been updated since 2012. From what I understand, it's been a fairly big update, so if you took it before that, it might be worthwhile to take it again.
It is 4 days of your life, but it is an excellent training. I know that's hard, but it is an excellent training.
It is worth it.
Do I need to sit? Okay. All right, so when you're done writing your questions, all I'll do is write them. I'll read them out loud so that your thinking can be triggered, but then we will not print them out until the last day to submit them is March 3rd. If I get it done earlier, I will send it out earlier, but I have till March 11th. These applications are due April 22nd, 4:30. It's a Friday afternoon. I actually toyed with the idea of giving it till Monday, and then I thought, what is that doing? Saying work all weekend. So get them in Friday afternoon. We're just calling it a day. It's just waiting. Thank you. Has everyone signed in, please? Yeah, this. It's got my. Okay. In the RFF, it also gives you an additional tobacco outcome because those are about pregnant women and adults. You may opt to do that, but it also gives you a youth one since many of our providers are working with young people. Are there any more? Okay. No worries. I can answer some of these, I want to say, as I'm looking at them. Well, yeah, that's not so hard. Thanks, Randy. Ready? What are the expectations about the number of people served in the county? The two budgets that are expected for each year, are they comprised of the forms? One of them is, the other one is not. The other one has to have them broken down so that we can break that as, or is there another form that needs to be used? So one of them is in them, but the other one is not. Is there a target age group? Since it is required for a partner school to do the ATO annual survey, will we need to give the report to DMHA? No, but you will need to release it to IPRC. Will multiple EBPs be funded per applicant? That answers yes. Yeah, like if you're doing multiple things, because you'll keep layering. Is it possible for more than one applicant to be funded from a county? Can dollars be used to help coordinate and fund treatment programs? I'm sorry to answer that one right off the bat. SAPT block grant dollars, the 20% set aside for primary prevention is what this is. There is an 80% treatment set aside. These are the prevention dollars. Do you have any preference for a logic model format? The logic model should be data directed. We can post a logic model if that would be a format if that is helpful to you. Do you have to be an LCC to apply or have a letter from the LCC? I thought it was worth a point, but is it required? It is worth a point. You do not have to be an LCC to do this, but you do need to be coming from a coalition. Does DMHA prefer the environmental strategies for social norms to come from the ones listed on SAMHSA? Yeah, I'll answer that quickly too, but I'll also answer it there. You need to use the EBP guide that Indiana has. Okay, so our EBP guide is the one that we're using. So it's posted on our website. If you want to make an argument for something else, you have to ask for a waiver and you have to submit more information. Upon what data was the decision made to include prescription drugs as a state priority and drop maybe meth off? That would make sense. Meth off. I don't know. It was like that when I started it 2 years ago. So I can find that answer. I don't understand two budgets, so I'll put some answers on that as well, but I think, again, we're going to do two different kinds of budget. Please confirm 200,000 a year for each of the 2 years for smaller counties. Yes, it is a per year. That is what you can write up to. What is the cost of SAPS training and where is it located? Just so you know, SAPS is free for DMHA providers. In fact, it's free for anyone, but DMHA providers get first dibs. So you can go at any time. The costs come in that it's a 4-day training and you're going to have to probably travel and stay in a hotel, right? Traditionally, the one tomorrow is in Indianapolis. A lot of times it's in Bloomington, often it's in Bloomington because IPRC are our trainers and they have an easier time getting that as well. What is the age range? Does injection drugs include heroin? What are the expectations? Yes. What are the expectations about numbers of people served? The two budgets that are expected? Are they I think I'm back at the beginning. All right. Can counties address more than one substance? Absolutely. It's going to be on your needs assessment, but you can only address these 5. Okay, so you can certainly say we have a problem with injection drug use in our county. Some of our counties make a very strong argument about their concerns about heroin, but really many of our young people are using alcohol as well, so you can certainly address mine. Remember, you're doing mostly universal prevention, so it's going to hit everybody on many of those things. I don't have the second budget forms and template forms. Can the NLUs view schools? Yes. Understand margins and font. Is there a double space requirement? No. Okay. Yeah, it was funny to write that. I really did feel like I was back in college. Considering the 2 million required for the larger grants, is DMHA looking for a percentage of the grant to go to these other entities? I'm not answering that because I don't have that answer. Do we have to address all areas? No. You're going to address what your county needs. Right, what your county needs based on your needs assessment. SAPS is October 4th through 7th. This must have come from Kathleen. All right? All right. When collaborating with another agency, how do we break down their dollars? 60%, 40% on the budget form provided. I don't have an answer for that yet, so I will get you an answer for those. All right. Any other questions? Any other comments that you would like to make? I know you guys better than that. Somebody's got something to say out there.
Well, thank you for your time and effort.
Nice. All right. We have the room till 3 o'clock. If you would like to network with your providers or your peers as well, you're welcome to stay. I'll be here for a few more minutes, certainly cleaning up. You need to check our web page before or after March 11th. We will also send out all the answers to the questions in the same way that we did before. The way that I sent out the webs before was Prevel. I sent it to my colleagues. I sent it to the providers that we currently have. I sent it to people who asked me to put them on a list. However, that is not comprehensive, so please do look on our website so that everybody has a chance to see the same things. All right, Eric? Okay, for me or for just you want to? Okay, all right, thank you very much.